the... Oh, we've got a countdown there. Excellent connection.
Good to go?
I think so, yeah.
Right on. Well,
All right.
welcome everybody. We're, one day removed now, officially, from WrestleMania 38. Saturday and Sunday. Night 1, Night 2, however you want to talk about it. Norman, how you doing, bud?
I'm good, man. Yeah, I'm recovering from a busy weekend for us people who work in wrestling journalism. So yeah.
Yeah, it was hectic. It was a long time, lots of hours, but we're for the most part. I think everybody was kind of like, how can they possibly say this is going to be stupendous? This is
Yeah.
maybe one of the most poorly built WrestleManias in forever.
Yeah.
And to me, wound up being one of the more memorable WrestleManias in forever. I would say this might have been my favorite WrestleMania in probably the last 5 years, at least.
Yeah. I'll go for that too, man. Yeah. I mean, I enjoyed it a lot more. It's probably my favorite one since like 30, maybe. Yeah, or maybe 31. No, since 30. Yeah, maybe 30 or 31. I'd say. It was my favorite one since then. The expectations were low. You know, the builds weren't particularly great. I don't think there were. I would say most people weren't super enthusiastic about the shows. But they pulled it out of the bag, man. It was good. For overall both nights very, very good, very entertaining. Even night 2, which was obviously the weaker night, had its moments, and yeah, I think everyone could be really proud of what they accomplished.
Yeah, this was certainly night 1 and night 2 were different from each other. But I thought that too, thinking, okay, night 1's going to be the standout night after it was finished. I'm like, yeah, that was fantastic. How can night 2 live up to that? But in a way, it did, but differently. Like, it wasn't as entertaining in terms of the in-ring product, like the wrestling part of it, but the moments, the WrestleMania moments that happened on night 2, I was really into it. Like, it took a little while to get rolling, but man, the last hour of night 2 was pretty fantastic for me. So,
yeah, I agree.
We're gonna talk about it. We won't necessarily run all the way through every single match. We'll be here forever if we do that, because I think the run time was close to 7 hours when you put night 1 and night 2 together. So we're not going to do that here, but what we will do is kind of go through, talk about our favorite moments, talk about some of the ones that didn't stand out for us among our favorites, and just sort of recap the night. If you guys are on here on the YouTube channel right now and you're watching live and you can see this, go ahead and put your comments in there. Let us know what you guys thought about the show. Everything else, so I just popped it up. I don't know if you guys could hear that on my end. But yeah, we're going to kind of break it down and talk about that. So, Norm, I'll let you go first. If we're going to pick, say, like 2 or 3 of our weekend, where would you rank your top 3? You want to go 3 to 1 or 1 to 3? Top to third favorite, or third into a countdown?
3 to 1 maybe, yeah. And I'm trying to, I'll kind of do this off the top of my head, right? For stuff that's like sticking in my brain. I think for number 3,
you do 3 and I'll do 3, then you do 2 and I'll do 2, and then you do 1. We'll do our top 3 each.
And then if we double up, then we can just skip.
We'll just build on each other.
Yeah. So I'll say number 3. I think I'm gonna go with Bianca Belair finally defeating Becky Lynch, and some long-term storytelling paying off, which we don't see super often in WWE, at least intentionally. I think sometimes it happens and people call it long-term storytelling, but it was completely by accident. I thought the match was incredible. The moment was beautiful. And for Bianca Belair to have 2 years in a row the best match at WrestleMania is incredible. And she's 2 for 2. She's only had 2 WrestleManias and she's killed it every time. She's incredible.
Yeah, I thought that match was really good, and I said to you before we kind of came on here, I think that might have been the best match for me in terms of the in-ring work. There were some really good ones, but this one was solid, and I watched it twice. There was a couple matches on night 1 that I went back and I watched again on Sunday prior to night 2. That was one of them, and it really was good. Like, there's just no denying how good it was, even when it wasn't perfect. Like, when there was a couple spots where like Lynch is trying to get up on her shoulders or trying to pull a move off, they were able to take what wasn't good and turn it into something that worked. They did kind of cool roll-ups, and they made their in-ring chemistry, these two, is undeniable. Like, they're so good together. And that made that match excellent. And the build and the emotion, and Lynch playing her part as the heel, and Belair playing her part as the babyface. The crowd was into it. They were hot for almost all of the match. It was really solid. I'm not going to put it in my top 3, but it was my favorite match of the entire weekend. In terms of the actual in-ring wrestling product, I thought it was maybe tops. If not tied for another match that I'm going to have in my top 3, but it was right up there. So, yeah, I was really impressed with that match. I thought it was super solid. All right, so my number 3 was actually Pat McAfee. Night 2. That dude might have been, outside of Stone Cold Steve Austin, the most popular person in WWE this weekend. His pop was massive, like incredible. And the fact that they got Seven Nation Army, White Stripes music to open, have him come down, you knew immediately when that hit, people were going to go crazy. They were going to sing and chant. He was so over and so huge, and he did such a good job. Like, imagine being McAfee and getting that moment, right? Not only do you get your match, which you've just wanted forever, but you get to wrestle Vince McMahon when you're done and lose, which I'm sure he's loving. then he gets to fight with Steve Austin, and he milked every inch of that moment, and it was so good. For me, definitely in my top 3. He was a star this weekend. I thought.
I agree, man. He was the most over babyface on the entire show, other than Stone Cold Steve Austin, and they were in Texas, so he basically nailed everything. He did everything he was supposed to do, did it perfectly. Had the crowd in the palm of his hand, got a win at WrestleMania. Yeah, his selling of the stunner. But it was a toss up between him and Austin Theory between best stunner.
So different, but so cool at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
He goes straight up, dead body falls right over. Austin Theory goes up in the air, his legs kicking like he's pedaling a bicycle. Oh my gosh, both of them are so good.
Well, and McAfee did the beer spit as well, which is always awesome to see when someone gets stunned. And he was absolutely just living in the moment. Really, really entertaining match. I did think the post. I thought maybe the Vince Pat McAfee stuff went on a little bit too long, but it was thoroughly enjoyable. And of course, Vince McMahon eating the stunner and just the most, or probably the worst stunner ever.
Okay, let me ask you, do you think that was intentional, or do you think that was just him not being able to take the move properly?
I wonder if
theories about this.
Yeah, I was thinking, when he bounced off the ropes and came back and then and then he got like stunned. Yeah. I wonder if he was trying, if there was just some miscommunication there, and Vince was thinking, "Oh, I'm just going to come off the ropes and then you can kick me in the gut and hit me with a proper stunner." But Austin didn't clock that, and so he just did the little, head grab, pull you down thing. Yeah. I mean, the guy's like, 76 years old or whatever. You can't, look, stunners, people have been, as we saw, McAfee and Austin Theory, that's how you should sell a stunner in this day and age, for sure. Vince has never been like the best stunner seller, although I swear I've seen him sell some.
Oh, no, that's what I'm thinking. That's why I'm asking, because there's the theory that it got screwed up and McMahon couldn't take it. But there's also the theory that this was an homage back to, I don't know what he was, 1997?
I see what you mean, yeah.
McMahon is known for taking the worst stunner in the history of stunners. And some people, and write your own narrative here if you want to, good old EC3, you can decide how you want to interpret this. To me, I think they did this on purpose. Now, I don't know if it was exactly how they had written it up, but I do believe, because Austin's laughing his ass off.
Right? Austin was corpsing, man. He was absolutely cracking up.
McMahon, you got to know McMahon's smart enough to know, look, dude, I'm the worst stunner guy in the world. I might as well milk that for all it's worth. Let's continue to make me the worst stunner seller ever. And he debauched it so bad on purpose just to pay homage to when they did it back in the 90s. So I do believe you can go either way, and you might not be wrong. You know what I mean? Like, it could have been just a terrible move, but it also could have been absolutely intentional. And McMahon's smart enough to do that. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I like that theory.
I don't know what it was, but it was super entertaining. And after having watched it, I'm like, it couldn't have gone down any better.
Yeah,
it was
awful.
I feel ya. It was so bad, but it was like so bad it was wonderful. You know what I mean?
I feel you, man. Yeah. So my number 2 also involves Austin. I was gonna say my number 2 moment is the main event of night 1, the Kevin Owens Stone Cold Steve Austin match, which was basically perfect. Like, it was as good as it did. It was what it should have been, and was just sort of executed basically perfectly. With a couple of things that maybe could have been done differently, but overall it was just really fun, really enjoyable, and kind of like the good kind of nostalgia trip. It just felt good. It made everyone feel good. And Kevin Owens got to main event WrestleMania, and I'm sure he's very, very happy about that.
Yeah, that's also my number 2. In general, just Stone Cold Steve Austin is my number 2 because he was on both nights, right? I did not expect to see him on night 2, but his match at the beginning when he got going with Kevin Owens, a little slow. I even commented in our group chat. I was like, man, he looks a little slow. But then all of a sudden, he's drinking the beers. He's starting to feel his oats. He's realized he's at WrestleMania and he's doing okay. It's not hurting him too bad. Then he starts to pick up steam, right? And he gets going. And all of a sudden, he's taking a suplex on the concrete. And I'm like, man, why would they risk that? Why would they do that? And he's totally fine. So he gets up and he's still going. So I'm thinking, man, he's getting better and better and better as this match goes on. And he's feeling more of the old Stone Cold, and he's doing that stuff. By night 2, he's coming out. He's full Stone Cold mode, right? He's doing everything that you would ever, catchphrases, all the stereotypical stuff you expect from Austin. I think he stole WrestleMania. I think that this was, in many ways, the Steve Austin show, and I'm super happy for him because he said it in interviews prior. He's like, I'm doing this for me. He's getting paid a huge amount of money to come, and he's a big attraction, and WWE really wants him. But he's doing this because he feels like he did not get the send-off he wanted when he retired the first time with The Rock. He didn't tell anybody he was doing it. Only the Austin, Rock, and I think McMahon knew. So he didn't get to go away the way he wanted to. So I think he really came back 19 years later for him. And I truly believe he got everything he could have wanted out of this experience and more. And the fact that he was moving around on night 2 and he wasn't looking like he could barely move, that's a huge win for me. So Austin in general, he's my number 2 because I thought he really stole the weekend. I thought he was fantastic.
Yeah, it was well done. And I think, actually, I'm glad that we didn't see a lot of him in the build-up to it. He was only really in that pre-recorded thing, I'm glad we didn't see him showing up in the arenas and getting into it with Kevin Owens or anything. Austin is star of the show, and I'm very, very happy for KO, man. I'm hoping that he might need to go away for a little bit now, maybe take a few weeks off, but I'm hoping he can get a big push out of this,
It'll be interesting because there's a few guys on this card, and maybe we'll talk about this in a little bit, that you wonder where they go now, right? Kevin Owens, to me, I'm going to respectfully disagree with you because I think that maybe the way that character leaves and he's dragged out by police and arrested for the state of Texas or whatever, I think he's got a built-in angle there. He can come out and say, look, I went toe-to-toe with Austin, I lost, they dragged me away. He's got the heel gimmick right there if he wants it. I don't think he'll be on tonight because I think WrestleMania Monday's got to have so much stuff already. Yeah. I don't know that they necessarily need Owens to be part of it, but he could. He could absolutely come and have a storyline written for him the way that match closed. So, but there are some other people on the show this weekend that I'm like, I don't know what they're going to do with these guys now. And we'll get to that in a minute. Okay, so what was your number 1 moment? I have a feeling.
So before we get to that, one of our viewers, Maureen, she agreed with what we were saying about the Austin thing. She said they played it just right. So yeah, we totally agree with you, Maureen. We've got a couple of comments. Hello, Vanessa. Vanessa says, "Hey, how are you guys? We're good. We're tired from covering WrestleMania all weekend."
Yeah, but in a good way. Love it.
Yeah, in a good way. Yeah, we're exhilarated. And if you guys are watching and you got any questions to ask me and Jim, feel free to fire away in the comment section. We'll read it out. So my number 1 moment, Cody Rhodes, man. That's my number 1 moment.
How could it not be, I guess?
Yeah, I mean,
people, I'm sure it was their number 1 moment.
So worst kept secret, obviously. But still, there's with WWE, with pro wrestling in general, you never know. You're never 100% certain of anything. There was I think a lot of people, even among some of our colleagues, weren't convinced that it was going to be Cody. I think people thought they would save Cody for Monday and that it was going to be Shane or someone. I was 90% positive it was going to be him, but I was sort of cautious about it because I was like, is he gonna? I wasn't sure how he was going to be presented. To see him come back with his just post WWE peak AEW Cody Rhodes with the Kingdom music, the gear, the American Nightmare, everything, his tattoo logo everywhere. I thought that was amazing, and he, for some reason, I don't know what it was, when he was in AEW, he felt like very AEW. He felt like a quintessential AEW guy. But immediately, him taking it just feels it's jarring to see someone. We haven't actually seen really anyone go from AEW to WWE, let alone go from AEW straight to WrestleMania in front of 75,000 people or whatever it was. So it was jarring to see a guy who I'm not slagging off AEW's attendance figures here, because obviously AEW does really, really good numbers ticket sales wise. They sold out Arthur Ashe Stadium, very, very impressive. They're not quite capable of selling out a 75,000 seat NFL stadium just yet. I think they probably will get there one day. So it was jarring for me to see Cody Rhodes, who for like the past 6 years we've only seen wrestle in front of max 15,000, maybe 20,000 if you Tokyo Dome or something like that. To see him go from that straight to WrestleMania in front of 75, back in a massive, massive stadium. But he looked, like I said to you when we were watching it, he looked very, very comfortable back in a WWE ring. I don't want to say he belongs there, but it felt like he belonged. It feels like he belongs there, and that now he's got his groove back. He needed to go away. He needed to reset. He needed to go rebuild his career and get back to what he is now. And I'm excited to see what they do with him next. Now, that is going to be interesting to see how it unfolds, right?
Yeah, that'll be the big question for a lot of people was that the high point, right? Like, I don't believe so. I think they don't do all of this and give him the money they're giving him and bring him back with such grand fanfare if they're not planning something big for him. But I'm with you. He was my number one moment too. And not just because the match was excellent. That was another match I went back and watched with him and Seth Rollins, and holy moly, was it
absolutely good. I didn't even mention the match. The match was, I love that match. Yeah. I loved it.
And for so many different reasons, depending on the type of wrestling fan that you are. Not only was the wrestling good, the story was good, the tributes and homages, the things that he did to shedding the Stardust character, to paying tribute to his dad, to all of the things that he did throughout that match. To the close finishes, it was so good. And you had mentioned it early in your comments that you was like, man, we all figured it was going to be Cody Rhodes. I don't know if WWE did this on purpose, if there's any truth to the fact that they weren't sure if he was going to sign and they were sort of waiting to see what happened, or if he actually signed up weeks ago. But it was so solidly booked in people's heads that this was happening, and then it didn't, and it didn't, and it didn't, and it didn't, that we all talked ourselves kind of out of it, right? And so that really made it feel special again when we all, because if we had all known it was Cody and we had all been like, yeah, it's Cody, when it is Cody, you don't get the same. You're like, yeah, it's Cody, but we all knew it was going to be Cody.
Yeah, it feels like they were trying to...
for WrestleMania, we're all like, is it? Like, is it Cody? Absolutely. We think it's Cody, but could it be The Undertaker? Could it be Shane? Could it... who knows, right? So then when you see it again, you get that second wind of like, oh yeah, it's Cody, right? So you're sort of surprised, even though you're not. So you get that, like you said, he gets the AEW gear, he gets the music, he's got everything that you want. So he's shed that entire past of Stardust and everything else, dashing Cody Rhodes, all that stuff. He's coming out. Yeah, he felt it looked like he knew exactly that he was supposed to be there. And so much so that I have to actually wonder if this was his grand plan all along. Like, I know he said in interviews that he always wanted to be in AEW, wanted to be the executive producer forever. He said that. He's gone out publicly and he said, I want to be an EVP in AEW till I'm done. But you also have to go, man, this dude is a genius. Like, this guy left, gambled on himself, did all the work to get himself to be the American Nightmare Cody Rhodes, traveled indies, did all this other stuff, got in AEW early, built AEW with these guys, and then bailed on AEW first. He can always say now he's the first, right? He left AEW at the high point of AEW and went back to WWE, arguably in a better situation than leaving AEW at a high point. Like, it's genius. It's absolutely incredibly smart. And I don't know that we are going to give him enough credit when all is said and done, because he'll be the first to have ever done it.
Yeah, and he's making a lot of money.
And he said everybody gets paid well, but he is making a lot of money.
Yeah, I wouldn't be. But and then so his last two matches, right? So he wrestled Seth Rollins on Saturday. His last match before that, if I'm not mistaken, was the ladder match with Sammy Guevara, which was a very, very good match, right? It was a very well received match. I wasn't as into it as everybody else was. I did like it a lot. Do you remember the match, right? The Sammy Guevara match
that took like the high spot.
He took the massive cutter off the top of the ladder. Right.
Yeah. I thought that was a good match.
Yeah, it was a good match. And so now he's had he had a very, very good match in front of 12,000 people with an up-and-comer, an AEW up-and-comer in Sammy Guevara, and then his next match is at WrestleMania against one of the biggest stars in the world, Seth Rollins. It's just such a weird trajectory, and it's one of those things that can only really happen in wrestling. It's just bizarre. And so you got to watch like his last two matches. It's like a ladder match with Sammy Guevara in AEW, and then just a one-on-one workhorse match with Seth Rollins in WrestleMania. And it goes to show as well that he is, with the right opponent, he really is like incredibly gifted in the ring. Yeah. He's a really, really good worker. I mean, the Rollins match at Mania, I think that was his best match since the Dustin match. Yeah.
You mean the first one in AEW?
Yeah. The match he had with Dustin. Yeah. I actually saw Cody's very first non-WWE match at he performed at an indie show, an Evolve show in Joppa, Maryland, where he wrestled Zack Sabre Jr. That was his first match post WWE, and even that was good. It was only I think it was like an 11-minute match, but because I think he was working off a little bit of ring rust from the the no compete clause and all that. Yeah. But it was a great match, man.
I'll say this, and I know AEW fans are not going to like me for saying this, but and I'm not trying to be disrespectful to AEW when I say this, but there's two things that stand out for me when it comes to his past in AEW. One, he's one of the few people from AEW. I think someone like an MJF or Chris Jericho or something, if they were to come to WWE, would fit right in. Right? They've got that whole storytelling a bit like Cody told a story with Seth Rollins at WrestleMania, right? Not a lot of AEW guys can do that. A lot of the guys wrestling in that promotion are high spot guys. They go a million miles an hour, but I don't know that they have the ability yet to tell the story. And Cody can. He was brought up in WWE. He told those stories in AEW, and a lot of people, I think, booed him for it, right? Because he wasn't the AEW guy. He didn't wrestle like a lot of the AEW guys did. The second thing is he's come over to WWE, and I don't know if you've seen any of the post interviews after WrestleMania, his first match, but without saying anything negative about AEW at all, you can tell in his context, his demeanor, just the way he moves, that he says what he says, that WWE is the big leagues. Like, you just can tell that he thinks it, right? And he's probably always thought it, right? And you just know he's thinking grander scale at this point. And he's back where he feels like maybe he should be, and maybe always should have been, and he's got something to prove. And he's not dissing AEW. He's not saying anything negative about them. But he is, in a way, coming across as like, yeah, this is where this happens. This is WWE. There's nobody else like it. This is where I'm supposed to finish things off, and this is what I'm going to do. And he doesn't have to say a single negative thing, but you just get that impression from watching him. Yeah. And I think for WWE, that's part of what they're paying for, right? They've got this guy that went out and rebranded himself, but they're also getting a guy who's coming in with that rep and going, yeah, this is where the big stuff is, guys. This is WWE. There's nobody else like us. Look at what this guy's going to do when he comes back here, right? So I think for many reasons there's so much more to that match that made it the number one moment of the weekend for me. All of that goes into it, and I think it was just incredibly huge.
And yeah, what you were saying about, sort of the AEW versus WWE style. There are guys in AEW that can do that, but they're not guys that WWE is really, I don't think, would ever be interested in. So for example, Hangman Page, who I adore, and I think is just an incredible wrestler, an amazing storyteller. I don't know I can never see him in WWE. I just don't think they would know what to do with him. Do you know what I mean?
That would be
NXT, but yeah,
it would be very interesting to see.
But whereas he's, like you said, MJF, I could see him in WWE very easily. A couple of other guys for sure.
Yeah,
but so
that's interesting. All right, so what if those were our top three moments? What would be, whether it's just one or two of the kind of the moments this weekend that you're like, yeah, that was not good?
I think everyone was a little bit disappointed with the Edge AJ Styles match. Slow start, never really got out of second gear. I think it ended strong. I'm intrigued to see where this sort of alliance with Damian Priest is going to go. You know, we reported on the site there was some gossip regarding Edge potentially starting a stable, and it now looks like that might be the case. It could just be him and Damian Priest, but I'd be very surprised if they don't add at least one more person to that group. Yeah, so that match wasn't super great. Probably was hindered slightly by AJ Styles getting his face busted open by Pyro immediately before the match.
I don't know what happened there. If he hit the set coming out, or if the Pyro wasn't. I know there's a debate about it because there's no real good angle of it. I don't think. But yeah, all of a sudden he's just bleeding, right? So you're like,
I'm sure we'll find out in due time, maybe tonight. But yeah, so that match was a little bit disappointing. There was a lot of other like sort of crazy stuff. You know, I had a lot of fun with. I thought the Jackass stuff was really fun. But yeah, other than that, really I would say the biggest letdown. There were worse things on the show, but the biggest letdown was definitely the Edge AJ Styles.
What did you think? I know that you and maybe not you, but a couple of the guys at the Sportster here did not love the Butch and the New Day Rich Holland. Where did you sit on that one? I think I'm in the minority. I didn't mind it.
Yeah, I know you're a fan. I'm not. So I don't hate it. I'll say that much. I don't hate it. I thought the match. I see why they did the match because obviously those guys have to get a payday. That's really important. And so even if they're just out there for 30 seconds, you know, at least they're getting paid for that. For me, and I mentioned this, I'm a big fan of. I'm a Pete Dunne fan. I've been a Pete Dunne fan for a very, very long time.
This, right?
Yeah.
Trying to wrap your head around the fact he's no longer Pete Dunne. That's
exactly. Yeah, and I always thought he had really nailed his own character. The Bruiserweight, I thought was just a perfect fit for his look and his in-ring style. I you know, for all I know, this could end up going somewhere where he's on top and he looks like $1 million. You know, I don't want to like make any sort of bold predictions. I don't mind the concept of Sheamus running a stable. To me, that's like kind of like Peaky Blinders or whatever. That's totally fine. I just hope that I hope everyone is utilized correctly. And then for me, the big thing was I personally wouldn't have chosen to Rich Holland over Butch, but like you said, the angle they're going with is Butch is like this scrappy little dude that wants to like get involved. He's like Scrappy Doo basically. He wants to get in a fight, but he's not in the match, so he can't have a fight. So I mean, you know, intrigued to see where it goes, but I think I like the Bruiserweight, and I'm sure he'll come back at some point though.
Yeah, I'll certainly hold out the fact that this could not end up well. Like, yes, this character could be a total flop, whatever. But what I will say, and what I'm being patient for, which I see a lot of people online and social media are not, is that the Pete Dunne character of Butch, if you know the history of the Little Rascals bully and that whole 50s whatever show, he's like a bully, right? Just wants to get in there and whatever. Pete Dunne, that's the character he's playing. So my patience here is to let it play out just to see what happens here, and if this could be a character that people sort of fall in love with, right? Like, so when he finally does get in that match and he's the kind of the mashup of Butch meets Pete Dunne, what's that going to look like? Could be very entertaining. So for me, I'm kind of like, you know what? You don't need to do much. Get him on there. Those 4 guys were there to sell Butch. That's how I saw it, right?
Yeah.
I do feel bad a little bit for New Day because of the fact that Xavier Woods and Kofi are wanting to go out there and pay tribute to Big E, and they're not really getting the chance to do that. Yeah, they had the singlets on and other stuff, but they're losing every match they're in. Like, they lost like 4 weeks in a row, right? So they're not getting a chance to really do that, but maybe you can do that without winning. But I don't mind that one. One of the takeaways for me that I didn't love, and I'm with you on the Jackass stuff, it's right in the middle for me. It wasn't great, wasn't bad, silly fun, right? If you can put aside the fact that it's not really a wrestling match, it's just a chaotic train.
I mean, that did show what Sami Zayn is capable of as well. I mean, the guy is just a performing arts genius, right?
Yeah. But I don't know what to make of Omos. I don't have a clue what they're doing here, and I just wonder if it's like they said, you know what, he's not ready, and we've now realized it. So let's book him in with Lashley. We need to get a big win for Lashley coming back, and let's just have him beat Omos. It could have been that. It could have been that they just were building Lashley, and Omos was the guy to help do it. But to me, and I'm not comparing the two, I don't think they're on the same level, but you remember when Goldberg lost for the first time, and everyone's like, now what?
Yeah, was it Nash? Right, was it Kevin Nash?
Yeah, it was Kevin Nash in the stunner, right? Like they zapped him with the
that's
thing.
Right. Yeah.
But once Goldberg's undefeated streak is over, it's over. He's no longer the undefeated Goldberg. Well, Omos was dominating and beating the crap out of everyone, and like handily. You can no longer say that about him.
No,
So
yeah.
what does that do for him? Is he just going to be pushed away? Is he coming back bigger and badder and meaner than ever? Like he was dominant for a while, but he got pretty easily beaten by Lashley. So I don't know if this was just WWE giving up on him and saying, you know what, he's not ready. He needs more time.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll use him. But the way they were building him coming in, he was like the next Andre the Giant.
They had him beat AJ, man. They had him beat AJ Styles, one of the best wrestlers in the world.
They've thrown that right out the window. So I have no idea what that's supposed to mean, right?
I had a little feeling watching that match when before it started, right? I was like, okay, this is going to be a squash. Almost is going to squash Lashley. That was like my immediate thought. And then as it started to play out, I was like, even 30, 40 seconds in, I was like, actually, I think they might be going. I think Lashley might be winning this. And then so now, I mean, look, it's tough because it's like, have they wasted a lot of energy and money in trying to get Omos up to a level that he's not capable of reaching? I guess we'll wait and see. But I could easily, how Great Khali kind of just turned into like a joke character after a while.
Yeah, and that's part of the concern, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so I can see that happening. But look, if he's not, what we saw of him, I didn't think was awful, honestly. Like, he's a big lad and he's slow, but I thought he kind of handled himself competently, at least, especially on a massive stage like that. So, it's not the end of the world. I think it's possible to repair that somehow. Maybe even if he comes out tonight and squashes a bit, a Kofi Kingston or someone like that. I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, it's not looking good.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you just aren't sure where this goes and what they do. And it could be interesting. I didn't mind Ronda Rousey and Charlotte Flair. It was a much better match than I thought it was going to be. A different match than Bianca Belair and Becky Lynch, but that was right in the middle for me.
Absolutely. I like that match.
Yeah, just like there was a lot of back and forth, no sells, one move and a pin. But at the end, I thought Ronda Rousey did a very, very good job of selling the emotion in the match. The whole, I feel for the referee. How did you not get that pin, the foot on the ropes? Like, she did a really good job. I think Ronda Rousey's taken a massive step in terms of what she's able to do inside those ropes. And Charlotte's great, right? Charlotte's just Charlotte, and she'll make anybody look really good. So I was pleasantly surprised with that match. But I'm with you on the AJ Styles and Edge one. It wasn't a bad match. It just wasn't anywhere near the expectation level that people had for it, right? It was slow paced. It didn't move. It felt like they were tired from the very beginning. Yeah. I'm interested in the Damian Priest stuff. We'll see what happens there. But other than that, I didn't think there was any too many like really negatives. Like typically at WrestleMania, it's always got a couple just like, oh my God, what are they doing? I didn't feel that way at all this weekend. There was nothing.
Yeah, it certainly wasn't like WrestleMania 32, where the entire show was just a complete snooze fest, right? With maybe a couple of like funny moments, but it was overall a success. 2 nights for them to be. So this is the third year they've done 2 nights in a row. The first year doesn't really count because it was at the Performance Center. Yeah. Second year, again, it was like limited attendance, and they were still in Florida or whatever. So this was the first proper 2-night, the first proper WrestleMania that's 2 nights, right? Because it was completely capacity attendance, full attendance and everything. Do you think moving forward it's going to be? Is it 2 nights from here on out forever and ever?
They've officially announced it. Yeah,
2 nights next year as well.
I think that's from here on in. That's the plan. Unless something new comes in to change it. I don't know why you wouldn't. They broke revenue records. They broke attendance records. It's a cash cow for them. It's a huge win for them to do 2 nights and sell 2 nights worth of tickets and have 2 nights worth of merchandise sales. Have 2 nights worth of surprises. I don't know why you wouldn't.
I remember going to. I've been to 2 WrestleManias. I can't remember the numbers. 35. I went to the one in Orlando, the last one that was in Orlando, and then the one that was in New Orleans after that. And they were both very, very long. Yeah. And I remember at the time being in the arena and thinking like I'm not sure if Wrestle Kingdom had been split up into 2 nights by that point, but I remember thinking like they should just make this 2 nights. Just make it 2 nights. But now, of course, it's like it was 1 8-hour night, and now it's like 2 7-hour nights or whatever. But
I think it's a perfect storm too when you've got a guy like Nick Khan in there who's already looking at other nights, right? He's already said publicly that he wants to go out there and find other nights, Saturdays or Fridays, where there's big events happening in big cities, and he can piggyback off that stuff. So I think WWE is more open now than they ever were to having pay-per-views that aren't on Sunday nights. Yeah. So when you have WrestleMania and you're bringing in all of that, economic windfall for the cities that you're in, why would you not? right? Like, yeah, the rental for the arena, I guess, goes up, but I don't know what WWE was doing if they were already renting it for the whole weekend, how those arrangements went. So if they're not, and it's just extra cash, why would you not do it, right?
Absolutely.
Before we move on to Monday, though, the one thing we should absolutely talk about is the main event, right? We haven't mentioned it in our top three or our worst moments, but what did you think of Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar? How did you feel about that match?
I mean, it didn't enthrall me. I thought that everything leading up to it, I thought was good, and then the bell rang, and everything after the bell rang was a letdown. It was basically it was a letdown. But I don't know. We've seen these guys wrestle a bunch of times now, right? At WrestleMania in the main event. The first time they did it, they had Seth Rollins come in and cash in because they knew the match was going to be shit, basically, right? Excuse my French. I don't know. Maybe this. I love I love Roman Reigns. I love Brock Lesnar. Maybe don't have the main event WrestleMania ever again, because I don't know that has it ever worked. Maybe the show that I mentioned that I was at, the one in New Orleans, they main evented that one. I think that was probably the best match they've had, right? And even that wasn't super great. It was a letdown, but we're not 100% positive yet. But it looks like maybe Roman got injured, and maybe there was an audible call.
I'm not sure. I haven't heard much about that today. I've seen the pictures and I've seen the stuff, and he looked like he was okay, and he's already tweeted out that he's the man. I don't know. He certainly does not want his streak to end this way. That's for sure. I don't know. I'm one of these guys that's sometimes in the minority. I liked the match, actually. The one thing I will say that I've seen from a lot of people is they didn't like the finish. It was just so sudden, right?
It was abrupt, yeah.
You've got this Kimura lock that's working, his arm's out, my arm's out, which I think, by the way, is not the legit injury. I think he's selling the idea that he was in a Kimura lock when he's saying that to Heyman. But this the one spear and it's over. I think that was a little shocking for people, which is why I think the match gets more thumbs down than it should. But I actually really liked the match. I loved the dynamic of Roman Reigns being the real heel here and Brock Lesnar being the babyface. This is really kind of the first time we've actually naturally seen these guys switch roles like this. So, and I thought they did a good job. There was a lot of selling, lots of back and forth for both guys. They had high spots where the crowd was really into what they were doing and stuff. Just that the end came so quick that I think people are kind of like, what the hell was that?
Yeah, you're right about the build as well. Like they really did. Brock, who is traditionally always a heel, and Roman, who for the longest time was a babyface, but not necessarily a good one. My wife, who doesn't follow wrestling religiously or anything, she just kind of absorbs it in the periphery from me watching it. She watched the show with me last night, and when that main event started, she was very taken by the fact that they had switched roles, basically, because the last time she saw the pair of them was the other way around, and she was very impressed by how Brock Lesnar she was very impressed by Brock Lesnar's babyface skills, and she was very impressed by Roman's heel skills. Yeah. She's a non-fan, so that was her take on it. I mean, I thought, it wasn't the end. It wasn't terrible. It was. I think maybe it was a little bit of a wet blanket way to end the show. I don't know, but yeah. I mean, they're two of the biggest stars in the world. So even if the match isn't super good, their presence is enough to propel the show.
Big fight feeling. I don't know. Talk about guys you don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what this means for Brock Lesnar. Losing, it's great that he was willing to do it, and it's good for Roman Reigns because he's now legitimately the top guy. All that stuff, but I don't know what does Lesnar take off for a while? Like what happens here, right? So I'm curious to see where that goes, but for sure. We do have
a couple more comments.
Okay, yeah. Go for it.
Let's grab those. Okay. Ozzy's commenting on your hat, Jim. Ozzy says Jim has his hat on today.
Ozzy's a regular on my Facebook shows every Monday night, and he always wants to know if I'm wearing a hat or not. I'm about 70-30 hats to not hats. So
yeah, I'm moving in. I'm like bald, so I'm like moving into hat territory myself. Honestly,
I'm gonna have to start getting some new ones so that he's got a new one to look at every week.
Then we have Kevin, Kevin actually said that Bron Breakker should have been the person to beat Omos. That would have been very interesting. It certainly would have done. I feel like that would have done more for Bron than it did for Lashley. Yeah, that would have been kind of cool. Maybe we see Braun tonight. I'm sure we'll get to that in a second, Jim.
Yeah.
And then also Kevin also mentions Rick Boogs, who we didn't talk about, making his sort of in-ring WrestleMania debut and ending in tragedy, really.
Yeah, you got to feel bad for him. I was surprised to learn that he was legitimately injured because the way that match was, what felt like to me was booked, it almost looked like it was supposed to be an injury angle. Right, he's got the two guys on his shoulders. Oh, his knee buckles under the pressure.
It looked like he was selling. Yeah,
everybody's like flawlessly going with it. All right, and then you're like, okay, well, Nakamura can't beat both the Usos. This is a good way to protect everybody. Usos win, they retain. I thought it was all on purpose to learn.
It really did seem. It really did feel like that way. You're right.
It was legitimate. I was like, wow, I was shocked by that. So
I mean, the fact that they're able. I mean, I guess that kind of shows how good these people are at their jobs. That they somehow had to make it look like nothing had gone wrong and still just sort of improvise. You know. Yeah, but you got to feel bad for Boogs, man. But he'll come back. You know. Maybe don't try to carry two guys on you at the same time, but you know.
Yeah, I watched it again, and the way that his leg, like there was no moment in there where, you know, when you see a guy gets like leg injured, it bends funny or does something or something pops out or whatever. I didn't see that. I didn't see any of that. There was no indication.
When Rollins tore his knee, right? It was very obvious that he had messed his knee up very badly. Or like when Eddie Guerrero's
elbow popped out when he was doing that frog splash. Do you remember that? That was ago. But, that was so obvious. It was just like, oh my gosh, that's so gross.
Or Finn Balor's shoulder as well when he had
Sid's calf or whatever. Like all that stuff, you're like immediately know something's not right.
We're like seasoned wrestling fans that we can just call to mind all of these disgusting like limb breaks.
You know you've been a fan too long when. But like I got the sense that Boogs just lifted up his leg and fell down. It looked like he was selling it, and so I felt really, really bad to find out that he's got a legitimate injury. That's a real bummer. Your first WrestleMania, first real big moment, and that's how you have to go out. But
and then we got another comment. We got a comment from Big MGM who wants to know who we think Roman's next opponent is going to be if his injury isn't severe.
For me, I'm going to go with Drew McIntyre. I'm not going to say that I'm supporting that idea, but I do believe that there's not a whole lot of people left. Maybe Lashley, based on his babyface turn. But Drew McIntyre makes a lot of sense. Now, Lashley's on Raw, keep in mind.
I don't think it's going to matter. I think. Like
I said, I have no idea what they're doing with these titles, right? Like, we've heard that they're going to keep them unified and he can go on both shows. I've also heard that this is only temporary and they're going to go back to the two belts afterwards. Like, I've heard both. So, I really don't know where this is going and if he'll stay on one brand. So, I'm going to assume Drew McIntyre because it makes sense. You got to get him out of that Happy Corbin storyline. He's a big guy, big baby face. He's probably going to get another run for the title at some point here. I don't know that you do Cody yet, but I think that's down the line. That's probably
feels like we're getting there. Yeah, I feel like he might. We're going to go through a couple other big guys. I don't know who else. I mean, Drew. Yeah, he's going to probably go through Drew, Lashley, like you said. Maybe Edge, AJ, someone like that.
I know a lot of people say The Rock, but that's so far down the line, and it's just such a big maybe.
And the fact that we didn't see The Rock at all over the weekend, I don't know, man. I'm sure that that's what WWE is planning for. I put it this way: I'm not going to be surprised if The Rock isn't involved in WrestleMania next year or isn't in a match. You know, maybe he'll be involved because they're in LA. Although I don't think he even lives in LA. He lives in Virginia. It's not like he could just drive home.
He lives on a movie set and everything goes with him. That's his deal, right? Like he takes the whole campus with him. Wherever
I mean, I'm sure he's got an apartment somewhere. I'm sure he's got
he's got a few.
Marina Del Rey penthouse or something.
Yeah. Yeah, and even if they were to do that for next year's WrestleMania, they're not going to start that build tonight. You know what I mean? Like,
no.
So when the question is who's the next opponent, it's not The Rock. So I know a lot of people are saying, "Oh my God, The Rock," but it's not going to be next. Like, there's going to have to be at least another line of 4 or 5 people before that even becomes a reality. So, it'll be interesting. Let's hope the injury is not real, or at least not severe, that they don't have to worry about it.
In a way, there's an interpretation that maybe him having to give up the title via an injury is the best way forward, because who can get it off of him, you know?
That would just be a shame if he had to release it based on that many days in a row, and then you have to,
for sure. Yeah,
I hate it when people have to vacate the titles.
I know. I'm never a big fan of that either, especially after a long reign like that, you know.
All right. So should we move on from WrestleMania and talk a little bit about Monday, WrestleMania Monday? Is that what the official name of it is? WrestleMania Monday.
Yeah, we've got an hour and 45 minutes, I think, until the show starts. So
yeah. So what's your expectation of tonight? I've heard some people say they're not going to expect a whole lot, and then I've heard other people say, like, yeah, there's a whole crapload going down here over the next 3 hours. Where do you fall on that line?
So I feel like traditionally we have it in our minds that WrestleMania, the Monday after WrestleMania, is always super crazy and a bunch of stuff happens, and I feel like that's like only true for like half the time in the last like 15 years or so. I don't know. I feel like there have been a lot of big surprises and some big returns and some big debuts on the Monday after Mania. I feel like there's been a few recently that have been kind of lackluster and haven't really been that exciting. I'm certainly not able to I certainly can't remember what happened last year or the year before that.
Mostly NXT, right?
That's right. Yeah.
And Lashley was in there and stuff like that. But
that's right. Yeah,
I'm with you. Sometimes it's huge. I think it dates all the way back to when X-Pac came back from WCW, and the Goldberg was a post WrestleMania one night. I went to that one. That was a big return. But yeah, it's been hit or miss, right? They sometimes a lot of NXT guys, but
Asuka maybe coming back. Maybe Lacey Evans comes back.
Bailey was in attendance last night. She was taking pictures from the balcony.
Okay, yeah. I mean, we got to see Bailey again soon, man. She's got to get back in the mix very soon. She's sorely missed. I think maybe we see Braun Breaker, man. Maybe that's why he didn't win on Saturday. Maybe we see him tonight.
Tommaso Ciampa said goodbye with Triple H. So while he's been on Raw before, maybe this is the beginning of him coming.
I hope so, man. I hope he's fully locked in the main roster now, and I hope they utilize him well, because that guy's been on NXT for so long, given so many, busted his ass, put in so many shifts, so many good performances. Yeah. He's the guy. He's like just a locker room leader down there, man. He deserves a shot at. He deserves a shot on the main roster. I don't know what his ceiling is, but
here's my concern for Tommaso Ciampa, and it's the same concern and the same thing I think of when I think of Pete Dunne. I love Pete Dunne too. I love his gimmick. I love his character. I love that he's twisting limbs and breaking fingers and doing all that stuff in NXT. But I have a feeling that they look at his size and they look at the ability to put him up in the ring with a lot of people on the main roster and go, how does anybody get to believe this? Yeah. So we need a character like this Butch. I see the same thing in Tommaso Ciampa. I have all the respect in the world for Tommaso Ciampa, and I believe he legitimately, on his own, could be a star. Maybe anywhere but the Raw or SmackDown roster, because they're so big and they're so he doesn't match up physically. Imposingly, right?
We do see people buck these trends, right? So we see Bryan Danielson. Shawn Michaels isn't like a big guy. Eddie Guerrero wasn't like a huge guy. We do see these trends buck, but it's very rare. You have to have something really, really special, I think. And you also need like zeitgeist on your side. You need this like with Bryan Danielson, we don't get WWE champion Bryan Danielson if the WWE universe doesn't sort of coalesce around him and demand that he is pushed the way he was pushed, right? So many factors so many bricks need to fall into place for someone of Ciampa's size to get a rocket strapped to them in WWE, right?
Yeah, and the only reason I say that is because I think if we do see Ciampa, that we see maybe a character shift. We see some sort of new gimmick, some sort of angle attached to him, because I think on his own, while I have all the respect in the world for him, I don't think WWE is going to push him by himself like that. So I think you're going to have to. If we see him, it could be something different. It could be something unique. Otherwise,
maybe he's in Edge's. Maybe he's in Edge's stable. Maybe he's in Edge's new group.
Yeah, for sure. He would fit, right? Yeah. I think they're going with like a brutish kind of thing. And so if that's the case, you want guys that are going to fit that mold. And Priest fits perfectly. And I think if you tell a couple small minor tweaks to a guy like Ciampa, he fits too. So, and I think Edge likes him. So I think there's probably a mix there. We're going to see Veer, finally. Yeah. I have to ask you this. Do you believe that Veer is going to actually succeed on Raw, or is this now a troll job by WWE? He's going to come out, build this 7 months they've been building this. October of 2021 is the first time we saw Veer's coming to Raw. Does he come out and just lose? Like squashed by somebody who returns? Like somebody comes back, like big thing for Veer. Oh my God, he's debuting. All of a sudden, somebody returns and they just cream him in 30 seconds. Like, does that happen? I legitimately think that could happen.
I could absolutely see that happening. That would be very, very funny. I think, yeah, I don't know. I think maybe he just shows up, wins a few squash matches, and then I don't know, fizzles out. I don't know. I've seen a little bit of him. Um, who knows, man? Maybe he could be the next WWE champion. You know, you never know.
But you know what? I just don't know how they do it because they've
Yeah.
been building this so long that there's no way he can live up to this hype. Even though the hype is sort of like it's
Manufactured,
hysterical
yeah.
in itself,
Yeah, yeah.
right? But like he can't do anything to live up to 7 months worth of hype. I don't know if there's been a star in the history of the industry that's been built for this long to
Yeah.
come out and debut. I think you almost have to make it a joke. Like
Yeah.
just go, we've been doing this for 7 months. We get it. We totally pooched this. Let's just have some fun with it, and we'll say this is the biggest thing since sliced bread, and we'll just have them lose. Like,
Yeah.
I almost think that's what they're gonna do.
I mean,
could be totally wrong,
honestly, I'm
but-
not gonna lie. I would pop for that. I would laugh if
Yeah,
that's what.
and that's what I wonder if they're going for. Just the short-term pop and get somebody
Yeah.
else over, having realized that they dragged this out way too long, right? And I'd be very curious to see what happens. And I saw you mention you think Cody Rhodes is going to give like a little 20-minute promo. You expect that tonight?
Yeah, I can just look. I'm not betting on it or anything, but I can see the USA Network Twitter account. That some of the WWE accounts they've been plugging Cody's appearance on Raw tonight heavily. I can see him opening the show with like a 20-minute Cody promo. But you know, I think maybe the way to go would be to open the show with Roman. But yeah, I could easily see Cody.
Yeah, open the second hour with Cody, open the third hour with Cody, whatever. I do think you should give him the promo time, and depending on what you let him say, I think it could be huge. It could be massive.
I hope he has a match, man. I want to see him in the ring again.
What he says tonight, if they give him the microphone, could make or break him. Like in terms of how people either get behind him or they quickly lose the buzz from WrestleMania.
And his promos, his AEW promos were very hit and miss, man. Sometimes he'd nail it, hit it out of the park. Then there were times when it was just very cringe and sort of like, you know, like his Anthony Ogogo feud. That was never, I wasn't into any of that. You know, but yeah, I guess we'll find out if you run.
But he also has the ability to strike out too. So
and maybe I think the WWE universe is going to be so happy to see him that it's going to go down well. So I'm looking forward to seeing what goes down.
Any other surprises you expect tonight, or just traditional WrestleMania Monday?
Yeah, hard to predict,
A lot of
man.
chaos. Like it's just one of those shows where it's either really, really cool, and you take away a couple of moments, you're like, oh my god, they just crammed so much in here that it's like over sensory overload. Like you're just like, oh man, there's just too much going on, right?
Yeah, there's a lot going on, man.
It'll certainly be interesting. We had to clear the deck tonight to make sure we had enough room to cover all the stories we expect to come out of the show. So. Guys should be keeping an eye on TheSportster.com because everything that's happening on Raw, if you don't watch it tonight, we'll be updating on the website. So
yeah, man. Yeah, we're going to be writing a lot, and you're going to be doing your look out for Jim's winners and losers, right?
yeah, and then we'll do Talking Raw right after on Facebook. So if anybody wants to join us live and stream on Facebook, as Ozzy knows, I might even have a different hat on at that time.
And eventually, we're going to figure out how to simultaneously stream the same show to YouTube and Facebook.
Yeah, we'll get all of these things working together and married in one big happy synergy.
And then, real quick, before we duck out, I just want to shout out. I watched and covered the Ring of Honor Supercard of Honor show on Friday night. The first Ring of Honor show of the Tony Khan era. I think it was brilliant. I had a great time watching it. It was really enjoyable. The Briscoes FTR match was just absolutely incredible. If you haven't seen it, go out your way to see it.
Yeah.
And yeah, you know, we were talking about WWE today, but I think very, very intrigued to see what Ring of Honor looks like moving forward. Whether it becomes like an AEW's version of NXT, certainly seems that that's what's going to happen. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what goes down.
And how can we not mention Samoa Joe as AEW?
Yeah, exactly,
right?
man.
Comes and shows up at Ring of Honor, and he signed with All Elite. So.
The timing for that was perfect as well, right? He signs. I believe that he must have been in talks with AEW prior to Tony Khan actually buying Ring of Honor. So then, when his clause is up or whatever, they're like, you know, oh, we've got Supercard coming up. You can debut there. You can re-debut at. You can return to Ring of Honor. It's been 7 years, I think, since he's been in Ring of Honor, and even his last Ring of Honor run wasn't super great. It was brief and didn't really do much. Yeah, I mean, I guess we are going to see Joe on Wednesday on Dynamite. So yeah. Looking forward to seeing Joe on TV
already, right? With one show under the belt, what Tony Khan is thinking about this unit. Between Ring of Honor and AEW, they're not going to be treated separately at all.
Yeah,
right? Like he's got the
there
guy
was a lot of overlap.
Ring of Honor, and then he's got him signed as an All Elite star. So
And this means we're going to see
invading ROH, or is the two just work together and all the guys are under the same umbrella? Like, it tells you a lot about what he's thinking, right?
we're going to get to see some old school Ring of Honor legends, that Bryan Danielson, CM Punk, Samoa Joe, Christopher Daniels. These people are we're going to get to see, probably going to get to see these people in a Ring of Honor ring again, which is something we never thought would happen. And if we get Bryan Danielson versus Jonathan Gresham in a Ring of Honor ring, I mean, for me, that's something I'm very excited to see.
Yeah, no, there should be some really solid matchups coming out of that. And if he's just crossing them over freely between shows, it'd be really interesting to see how
he's like a fantasy booker with a lot of money, and it's actually kind of amazing to watch. So
yeah, it has the ability to go sideways on you, but so far he's juggling the line pretty well. So we'll see how it continues, but it'll be interesting. There's a lot of This is the best time of year to be a wrestling fan, right? We're just off the heels of the Royal Rumble. We just finished WrestleMania weekend. There's all this AEW and Ring of Honor news. There's just so much happening in the world of wrestling.
We're on the road to Double or Nothing now, man. Yeah. That's coming up next month.
No, it'll be good. Yeah, so we'll see a million WrestleMania rematches probably, but which is always the downside of WrestleMania ending. But you never know. It should be good, and it'll start tonight with Monday Night Raw. So
yeah,
I'm good. I feel like we've covered this whole thing.
Yeah, man, we got it done. We got it done, man. We're under an hour as well. So yeah, I'm impressed with it, and we will be back. We're gonna try to do this much more regularly. We're still kind of figuring out our schedules and stuff, but yeah, you can expect to see a lot more of myself and Jim on YouTube.
Yeah, well, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, make sure that you follow so that when we do another video here on YouTube, you get the notifications that we're going to be on and live. Absolutely. And you can interact with us. And flop on over to Facebook tonight because we'll do
like, subscribe, comment, check out Jim's Facebook stuff, and don't forget to visit thesportster.com to see stuff that Jim and I have written and some of our colleagues have written. There's a lot of really good stuff on there. Some very controversial takes on the website too that I don't fully endorse, but other people are going to love them. So yeah.
What's that warning? It's like, this is not a message. What do we say? There's always that warning. This is not. I'm trying to think of the words where they say the opinions are not based on the network or whatever. They always have that,
for sure. That's what it is like working for the Sports Day. Yeah, a retweet does not equal an endorsement.
That's right. Just because all the posts on the Facebook page does not mean they were all my idea. Just to let you know.
Yeah.
So I'm like, wow, you guys are asking for it. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate it, Norm. That was fun.
Yeah, nice one, man. Take it easy, and we'll stay in touch, and we'll do this again real soon.
Yeah, sounds good. See you guys, everybody.
See you.